So, the Vampire Diaries. The Vampire Diaries and Iron Man and The Dark Knight all came out right after the writer's strike of '07. And they all felt like a breath of fresh air because one, Iron Man was just fun and had all this technology on it, all this fun CG, and a promise of a greater universe. The Dark Knight was a very well done movie, and everybody was like, oh, Heath Ledger died, that's so sad, blah blah blah. Vampire Diaries, on the other hand. Sure, it came out after Twilight, but it was nothing like Twilight. It had vampires that looked like they could kill you, but also fuck you, and also it was epic drama, and also it was a bit of erotica, basically. Now, at the time, erotica was in its final days because internet porn was a thing, and '07, because of the writer's strike, a lot of people got used to pirating stuff, basically. YouTube really was kind of getting started in '06, '07-ish, and kind of really became big after '08. So, all those things are factors, but also, because Grey's Anatomy and Orange County brought in various, well choreographed soundtracks to TV shows. First, people in Orange County, all the bands that wanted to be, all the band's management wanted the bands to go to the Orange County and perform so that they can have their big break, blah, blah, blah. And because TV shows were starting to get this soundtrack, hyper-designed soundtrack by competent people, blah, 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 it sort of started to become a thing where bands showing up to the LC were kind of feeling a little bit mocked because, oh, you're selling out, man. You're selling out. Blah, 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 blah. How dare you like making money? You're selling out, man. You sold out. And even because the bands are led by fucking douchebags, a lot of times they're like, oh, we're selling out, man. We're selling out. We're so fucking douchebaggy, blah, blah, blah. Selling out, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Musicians aren't as fun as you would like them to be. Right, so Halsey did it, Grey's Anatomy did it, and Vampire Diaries did it, had a whole soundtrack list, blah, blah, blah. But it was kind of the last show I remember to really do it, because after Vampire Diaries, as you go into the teens, I don't remember any other show really embracing the whole designed musical soundtrack thing. It's kind of those three shows at that era, at that cultural moment. I'm sure that if someone brought the soundtrack to a TV show thing back, you'd be very successful because it's fun to have a really good soundtrack tied to a show, but it's what it is. Right, so Vampire Diaries is kind of Cinemax. At the time, last days of erotica, Cinemax got known for being called Skinemax. Porn eventually killed the, Skinemax idea after the early teens because, why watch Skinemax bullshit when you can just watch softcore porn, I guess. And it was still a time where kids actually had to deal with parental locks on their stuff. But if you have a vampire show and Twilight is blowing up and you have Damon Salvatore running around shirtless, right? And there's all kinds of clips of Damon Salvatore. I kind of feel like Damon Salvatore kind of became porn for a generation because, parental locks on things are an actual thing, right? And Damon Salvatore, it's fucking Ian Somerhalder, and that's charisma as fuck, right? But also you have the drama of it. So every fucking thing you can conceivably think of was going for that show. It replaced Smallville with a breath of fresh air. It had a choreographed list of, it had a soundtrack. It had a really well choreographed soundtrack. It had vampires banked on this commercial, this vampire trend, but it brought actual vampires that both dudes and chicks could appreciate because the dude is getting all these super hot chicks in bed, and the chicks are getting this guy who they can change him, blah, 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 and every fucking thing you can think of that would go well for this thing went well. So every fucking thing you can think of that could go well for this thing went well, right? Yeah, so Nia Dobrev and Ian Somerhalder actually dating? Sure. Like, here's two hot guys around this super fine chick who plays two characters. She can be both the innocent one and the super hot villain chick everybody wants to fuck. Right? Like, it knew about the Hunger Games before the Hunger Games became a big deal. Like, Jeremy wore the outfit about the Hunger Games. He was like cool and hip, and he gets shit before that. Anna was really fucking hot, and everybody wanted her to play X-23. Like, every conceivable thing you can think of. Sark from Alias, great character. Now he's the dad. Surprise dad, blah, blah, blah. Everything. You even had, like, weird pseudo-incestuous joking around because Elena's mom used to play Stefan's sister on a werewolf show, and that werewolf show had Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead was one of the hottest chicks you'd want to bang in the late 2000s, right? So you had the guy who played Alaric. He was in Legally Blonde, but he was also in this submarine movie that got fucked over by Weinstein, right? Every possible thing you can think of, everything, was going well for this thing, right? And it just sort of gradually kind of step by step eroded. And then it got a spinoff, and the spinoff had every fucking thing going for it. It was very good, except for like the way it was shot for the first half season was very bizarre and very weird. But the storytelling was good enough, and it was like all about drama and whatever. And that hot mermaid that became the werewolf queen was everybody wanted to fuck her, sure. And then season 5 happened, and it concluded, and then you got Legacies, and Legacies, for some reason, was the Buffy formula. It was basically Buffy. You have Blondelia, you have slightly Asian Willow, although I don't think anybody really noticed that, you know, Josie was slightly Asian up until that episode with the samurai. It had Alaric being Giles, but and you had Afro Xander, blah, blah, blah. And it kind of was trying to be Buffy. So it was kind of pitched as Hogwarts for the Vampire Diaries, but then it was Buffy. And then, Alaric played Giles. And that really pissed me off because Alaric constantly had his ball snapped off. If Alaric from the Vampire Diaries actually had that school, the first thing, and had to keep track of his kids, the one thing he would do is become a vampire again, right? He would become a vampire again. He would be a massive force, a massive indestructible force. He would be the dean. He would be an indestructible force. He would have all kinds of gadgets about hunting vampires and werewolves and things. He would be because it just doesn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense. The only thing that kind of made sense was Caroline and Alaric never actually fucked. And I think that was very logical. But the Legacies, it had all these great things in it that could go well, but from the start, it undermined itself, right? It undermined itself by trying to be Buffy. And it kept going back to the formula of the character that the character is imitating. Alaric should not have been Gilesified. It didn't make any sense. They even brought in Wesley Wyndham-Pryce as a bumbling British professor dude. It was very, very clearly inspired by Buffy. But the problem is, Buffy is not only on a completely different continent of logic than Vampire Diaries, Buffy also has very well-designed Sweden writing. Right? Sweden family writing. The first 10 or 12 episodes are very episodic, and then you develop everything you've set up masterfully over time. You take what you have and you do stuff. Well, that's at least Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Buffy was way earlier Sweden family writing, but it really, here's a concept, develop it like extra well, blah, blah, blah. What if nobody could speak? What if everybody did a musical? What if this? What if that? Very good character exploration, blah, blah, blah about Buffy. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Sweden family writing. First 12 episodes set up. One of them was really good. Then it develops and develops and develops and develops. And sure, it got a little undermined by one of the executives being like, we need more ships. Shipping, blah, blah, blah. But whatever. But Legacies, like, the vibe was off from the beginning. The vibe was off from the beginning, and it kind of tried to return to the Vampire Diaries vibe, but it kept failing miserably. And the closest thing to an interesting story that would realistically take place in the Vampire Diaries universe was the obvious spin-off episode. You know, here's a backdoor pilot about these various characters. But that story fucked itself because it undermined one of the main villains of the story, Kai, and just beheaded him for no conceivable reason. The only way that Kai's death makes sense is if Kai intentionally spelled himself so that his soul would go into the sword and even that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would Kai just hurry and go back to the mansion? It just didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense whatsoever. It didn't make any sense that these three teenagers would beat up Kai. Kai can just drain them of power slowly build up power. He is a vampire after all, right? Kai, the heretic, would fucking dominate these people. And it just, what is that? Like, here's the witch, she has magic. So Kai can why didn't Kai just drain her of all her magic? Then, like, do a spell to subjugate the vampire chick. Then do a spell to suppress the transformations of the werewolf dude. Or intentionally, like, I kind of feel like Kai should have just tortured these kids to no end. And, like, the whole setup of the story doesn't make any sense. Like, why would Alaric just trap them in the same world that he trapped Kai into? It just, it's all these good concepts that kind of feel like they're being developed, but then you really think about it and it really undermines itself. So that was me blabbing about the Vampire Diaries universe for like 15 or 20 minutes or whatever. I hope you liked it.